Hello everyone, my name is Marissa Strauss. My proposed research project involves personality types, attachment styles, and romantic relationships between couples in the military. So today I'm going to talk about the premise of this project and why it's needed and important and form the initial research question. Next, I'll move into the theory regarding personality and attachment type and how they're involved in relationships. Then I'll explain topics regarding the various relationship types to include marriage, long-distance relationships, and breakup factors. And finally, I'll detail my proposed research project, the design, and proposed methods. The premise of this project centers on military couples. Military couples are often forced to make early decisions regarding romantic relationships, career goals, and marriage. This happens just because once people are in the military, in order to feel the needs of a volunteer service, the military sort of owns them after they sign that dotted line, and the military will train individuals and assign them jobs, but they also assign them duty locations and also dictate where people go on deployments and when they go on TDYs. TDY is a temporary duty assignment, which can range anywhere from a couple of days to several months. Just depends on what the military needs. So overall, there's a lot of aspects that people in the military don't necessarily have. And moving on to relationships. Relationships obviously are a very personal choice and not something that the military can dictate. Relationships as a whole are a very important part of society and an important part of social interactions. But as we know, relationships don't always happen at convenient times. And in the case of military members who don't necessarily have a whole lot of control over where or how long they will be in various locations, just due to the nature of changing duty assignments every 2 to 3 years, people tend to make large relationship decisions in conjunction with duty location assignments. So once people find out that they have a new duty location that's separated from the person they're romantically involved with, people are faced with relationship decisions and how they want to proceed in their relationships. People are often forced to choose to commit to a long-distance relationship or break up. Alternatively, what some individuals choose to do is get legally married. Getting legally married provides the required documents for the personnel section in the military to either assign dual military couples to the same base or allow civilian spouses to join their military significant others, so that in the end their relationship can continue without having to do long-distance relationship. So that brings me to my overall research question, that is, are personalities and attachment types correlated to a couple's decision to reject a long-distance relationship and get legally married or break up? Or, put another way, do personalities and attachment type dictate the relationship that people choose to be in? So to answer this, we need to examine the role of personality and attachment in relationships. In terms of research, personality and attachment are the independent variables in this project, and they will predict the various relationship types. So what is personality? Personality is defined by the American Psychological Association as individual differences in characteristic patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Personality traits can be a fundamental predictor for social behavior and relationship dynamics. And research has shown that individuals with extroverted or sensing personality types are related to various relationship characteristics, such as happiness and relationship satisfaction. Moving on to attachment theory. Attachment theory was first developed by Mary Ainsworth back in the 1970s, and she examined the relationship characteristics between infants and a primary caregiver, like a mother. Since then, the theory has become more robust, and more recent research shows attachment styles, just like personality, they can be predictors of dynamics in adult relationships. As we learned in Chapter 9 of the Cowson textbook, attachment style is defined as the way a person typically interacts with significant others. And there are 4 main attachment styles. You've got secure, avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized. And secure constitutes about 70% of the overall population, and the other 3 are equally divided across the remaining population. And research has shown that secure attachment styles tend to indicate happier relationship traits. Moving on to relationships. Relationships is the dependent sort of variable in this research project. There are a couple of different relationship types. The focus of this project centers on the romantic relationships of military couples, and the choice to legally marry to avoid long-distance relationships. So married relationships are highly encouraged in the military. Marriage and family is a highly emphasized issue within the military, and senior military leaders understand that family is the cornerstone and source of support for individuals and their productivity within the military. As such, the military has designed a fairly large compensation package for military members and their spouses and dependents. A study conducted by Hogan and Seifert in 2010 indicated that military active duty members were more likely to marry at a younger age in order to take advantage of these compensations as compared to otherwise similar other young adults. Additionally, the military has a leave regulation that outlines the permissive process that even allows individuals to take non-chargeable vacation time in order to obtain these legal marriages. The alternative to getting married to reduce separation is to undergo a long-distance relationship. And there's been a lot of research on long-distance relationships. Research indicates that long-distance relationships aren't necessarily all bad. They're also not necessarily all good. Long-distance relationships are largely popular among college students, and they long-distance relationships are beneficial just because it allows the two individuals to pursue different career goals, different educational goals. In the case of military, it allows people to go on deployments. And then even immigration is a factor for long-distance relationships. And then despite this stigmatization against long-distance relationships, research has shown through various studies that long-distance relationships can provide just the same amount of relationship satisfaction as a relationship in close proximity. Just because with increasing technology, people are able to better communicate with international messaging services, video chats, and text messaging. And the communication within a long-distance relationship tends to be more meaningful than otherwise close proximity communication, just because the only way that individuals in a long-distance relationship can form intimacy is by this concept of self-disclosure. And when people self-disclose, they are able to get to know each other, get to know one another better, and it provides that intimacy for a closeness that relationships need. But despite all of the good things that long-distance relationship can provide, there has been shown that different personalities will fail at long-distance relationship. Cameron and Ross explored the concept of negative affinity. Negative affinity is a personality trait characterized by three main behaviors, and that's dispositional pessimism, low self-esteem, and the tendency to experience negative emotions such as anxiety and depression. And long-distance relationship basically is just a huge breeding ground for all of these negative personality traits. And so people who are high in negative affinity tend to either reject long-distance relationships or fail at them if they attempt them. So moving into breakup factors, despite all of the relational maintenance that goes into successful relationships, it's important to understand when and why relationships fail. A study conducted by Hill and his associates discovered that relationships tend to end at milestones or natural life pauses. For example, couples in college were more likely to break up in turning points within the school year, so like winter or summer vacation. And additional research by Wilson and Houston found that people tend to make large relationship decisions and transitions based in the second or third year of a courtship. So what is the real significance of all of this information, and why is this particular research needed? According to a review of personalities and relationships, there has been significant amount of research on personalities and relationships, but none that combine the two. Back and Vizier pointed out that there is a need for research that investigates the various transitions that relationships go through. And since we've already seen that breakups tend to happen at natural life pauses and transitions, it is important to see what happens in successful relationships through those transitions, and if there are various personalities that survive the transition, particularly with military couples when they are assigned to different duty locations. And then, while every relationship faces its own unique challenges, Lax and her research team found that the challenges that military couples face are a little bit different and not necessarily something that they would face had they not been in the military. And there's been very little research that goes into the relationship dynamics of military couples, and there's even less research that specifies the dynamics between a dual military couple. And then, to my knowledge, there has been zero research on this concept of a paper marriage in order to avoid long-distance relationships in terms of personality and attachment types. So how exactly can we determine if there's a correlation between personality, attachment type, and relationship type? My project is largely based on research conducted by Rossworm and her research team. And she used various assessments and then demographic questionnaires to determine the influence of personalities and attachment on relationship dynamics. So my proposed research project entails gathering information via 3 separate assessments: a personality assessment, an attachment style assessment, and then finally a simple questionnaire detailing basic questions about individuals, stuff that will include things like age, gender, and various facts about their relationship. Participants will be gathered via snowball sampling procedure, and that'll be used just to gain an initial interest count of individuals who are willing to participate. And then participants will have a couple of requirements. They will be required to be active duty military, currently in or in the past have been involved in a long-term relationship, and then I'll need a minimum of 30 participants just to make sure the results are statistically significant. So the goal is to get 10 married couples and then 10 single individuals. Single individuals, for the purpose of this research, will just be classified as unmarried. So regardless of if they're in a current relationship, as long as they're unmarried, they will qualify as being single. I will implement for this project I will implement a study. The measures that I'm going to be using for this project are largely modeled after Rossworm, and all the assessments that the participants will take will be available online. One widely accepted way to measure personality is via the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Test. This MBTI assesses 4 main characteristics. There's extroversion, introversion, sensing and intuition, thinking or feeling, and then judging or perceiving. And all of these different traits can be assessed to form 16 different personalities. And then to evaluate the personalities in this particular study, I will use the Kersey Temperament Sorter, and that is an abbreviated sort of version of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. The validity and reliability of this KTS assessment has been closely analyzed, and various studies found that there is a high internal consistency between the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator and the Kersey Temperament Sorter. And overall, the KTS has been found to be a reliable measure for determining personality. To assess attachment type, I will use the Experiences and Close Relationship Revised Assessment, and that was designed by Frawley et al. And also implemented by Rossworm. The ECR-R is a simple questionnaire, which is also available online, and that determines the various attachment type, as mentioned, and these attachments can be secure, avoidant, ambivalent, or disorganized. And again, research supports that the reliability and validity of this type of assessment is useful for determining attachment types in various couples and individuals. And then finally, to determine individuals' opinion and take on various relationship dynamics, I will have participants answer a short questionnaire. There will be 2 different questionnaires, one for married couples and then one for single individuals. And the questions on the survey will determine participants' relationship status and determine if military assignments influenced the various relationship decisions that people have made. To conclude, the goal of this research project is to determine if there is a correlation between personality, attachment style, and the various relationship decisions as it relates to couples and relationships in the military. The proposed method should provide a way to determine if a correlation between all of these variables exists. And that concludes my research proposal. Below are my references.